I never thought my life would take such a sharp turn. Just a few months ago, I was living a seemingly perfect life with my wife, Sarah. We had been married for 5 years, and while we had our ups and downs like any couple, I thought we were solid. I mean, who wouldn't think that, especially after surviving a skiing accident together? Sure, I was stuck in a cast for weeks and couldn't do much, but Sarah was there for me. At least I thought she was. It all began after my accident. I was getting physical therapy to regain my strength, but I couldn't help but notice that Sarah started acting differently. Small signs at first. She was more irritable, often glued to her phone, and had little time to spend with me during my recovery. I brushed it off, telling myself she was just stressed from work and dealing with my limited mobility. But deep down, something nagged at me. Then there were the insurance claims. I had requested a detailed account of my therapy sessions to keep track of my progress and expenses. What I found shocked me to my core. As I was scrolling through the claims, I noticed something peculiar: appointments for physical therapy that coincided with weekends I had been out of town for work. I mean, I had been laid up on the couch, not even able to shuffle to the fridge, while she was off seeing my physical therapist, Jake. I felt my heart race and my gut churn. I quickly grabbed a notebook and began jotting down all the dates and times. Each entry felt like a punch to the gut. The more I wrote, the more I confronted this awful truth. Sarah had been spending time with Jake when she should have been at home taking care of me. The idea of her being intimate, physically and emotionally, with another man while I was literally bound to a couch gnawed at me. It was one of those moments when time stands still. I thought I was going to be sick. I couldn't let this go unaddressed. Confrontation was inevitable, but I dreaded it. I hoped against hope that I was wrong, that there would be a perfectly innocent explanation for those appointments. Maybe Jake was just a nice guy trying to help her cope with my absence, but deep down, I knew that was a fragile fantasy. That night I waited until Sarah came home from work. I couldn't let her see the turmoil I was feeling, so I played it cool. As I sat on our couch, the darkness of betrayal loomed over me and I could hardly focus on the TV. She walked in, a smile plastered across her face, and my heart sank further. How could she be happy? "Hey babe, how was your day?" she asked, tossing her purse on the table. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "We need to talk about your physical therapy sessions." Her smile faltered slightly and I pressed on, revealing what I had discovered. I watched her face shift through a myriad of expressions: confusion, anger, and finally a defiant glare. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, immediately entering defense mode. "Don't play dumb, Sarah. I saw the claims. You've been seeing Jake while I've been stuck here. What's going on?" She hesitated, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The excuses came pouring out, a convoluted mess of denials and half-truths. She claimed it was just therapy, that I was overreacting, and that she needed to be around someone who understood the physical toll of the accident. But I wasn't buying it. The anger within me boiled over. "You expect me to believe that you've been spending time with him just for my therapy? You're lying to my face." Her defensive posture softened and she tried to change tactics. "You're being ridiculous. I'm just trying to help you. You're the one who's been so distant since the accident. I was just trying to cope." It was as if she was throwing my own insecurities back at me, trying to make me feel guilty for her betrayal. I could feel my heart shattering as the gravity of her betrayal settled in. In that moment, I realized I was grappling with the end of the life I once knew. The foundations of our marriage were crumbling before my eyes, and no amount of excuses could rebuild them. The confrontation with Sarah left me feeling unmoored, like a ship lost in a storm. I spent the rest of that night tossing and turning, replaying her words in my mind. Her excuses felt flimsy and insincere, but what cut deeper was the realization that I had trusted her completely. I had given her my heart and she had tossed it aside like it meant nothing. The next day I decided to dig deeper. I needed more than just vague hints. I wanted proof of what was really happening. After work, instead of heading home, I drove to the physical therapy center. I had never met Jake, but I had seen a picture of him online. He was fit, handsome, with a smile that probably melted hearts everywhere. I felt a wave of nausea just thinking about him. When I arrived, I told the receptionist I wanted to speak with Jake about my recovery. She looked surprised but agreed to fetch him. My heart raced as I waited, contemplating the confrontation I was about to have. What would I even say? Would he deny everything or confirm my worst fears? Jake walked into the lobby and I couldn't help but notice how relaxed and confident he appeared. His presence seemed to exude warmth as he approached. "Hey there, you're Chris, right? How's the recovery going?" I forced a smile, trying to mask my inner turmoil. "It's going all right. I wanted to ask you something important." He tilted his head, sensing the weight of my words. "Sure, what's up?" I took a deep breath, considering my words carefully. "I've been noticing some inconsistencies with Sarah's therapy sessions. Can you tell me how often she's been coming in?" His expression changed. I could see confusion mixed with concern. "Well, she's been coming in regularly, but has she been coming in on weekends?" I interrupted, feeling the anger rising again. He hesitated and then nodded. "Yes, there were a couple of weekends." Before he could finish, I cut him off. "Do you have any idea how inappropriate this is? My wife is cheating on me with you and you're just playing along." His eyes widened and he stepped back, hands raised defensively. "Whoa, whoa, I didn't know anything about that. We just work together. I'm just here to help her with her recovery. I assure you nothing inappropriate has happened." The words felt like a slap. Did he really think that was enough? "So you're telling me you've never crossed any lines? You don't think it's sketchy that she's spending weekends with you while I'm stuck at home?" He looked genuinely confused, and part of me felt a flicker of sympathy for him. He was just the physical therapist, not the villain in my story. But another part of me couldn't shake the anger I felt toward him for being a part of this mess at all. "I'm just doing my job here," he replied slowly. "If there's a problem, you should really talk to Sarah about this. I promise I would never do anything to hurt you, man." I left the therapy center feeling even more conflicted. I didn't want to believe Sarah would do this to me, but the evidence was piling up. She had been lying, and now I had to confront her again, armed with new information. The moment Sarah came home that evening, I was ready to unleash my fury. "So I talked to Jake today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Her face paled, and I could practically see her mind racing as she calculated her next move. "What did he say?" "Let's cut to the chase, Sarah." "He confirmed you've been visiting him on weekends. Care to explain?" Her eyes narrowed and she let out a harsh laugh. "You believe that guy? He's just trying to cover his own ass. You have no idea what you're talking about." "Of course I don't, because you've been lying to me this entire time. You've been lying to my face and I'm sick of it. I can't believe you're doing this," she shouted, her voice rising in anger. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill. This is just therapy and you're acting like I'm having an affair. Then why do you spend weekends with him? Why not tell me about it?" "You know I would have understood." I pressed, feeling my own emotions boil over. Her silence spoke volumes, and in that moment I understood that the person I thought I knew was slipping away from me. All the guilt she had tried to twist around to make me feel like it was my fault only served to fuel my fury. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly lost. I needed to figure out what to do next. My world had just been flipped upside down, and I felt like I was drowning in confusion and anger. I was no longer the man who had trusted her blindly. I was a man seeking answers and a resolution. I couldn't live this way anymore. The confrontation with Sarah had left me feeling hollow, like I was caught in a whirlwind of confusion and rage. I spent the following days in a haze, trying to navigate my emotions while wrestling with the reality of what was happening. Each evening, I returned home from work to an atmosphere thick with tension. We were sharing a space, but the warmth of our once happy marriage felt like a distant memory. My routine had transformed into one of paranoia. I became hyper-aware of Sarah's movements, her phone calls, the messages she kept hidden from me. I had never been the type to check her phone or delve into her private life, but now I felt like I had no choice. I needed to know if she was still seeing Jake, and if so, how deep this deception went. One night, as she lay on the couch engrossed in her phone, I noticed her expression had shifted. She was responding to messages with smirks and all too casual laughter, and I could feel the anger boiling inside me. I tried to dismiss the rising tide of jealousy, but it was hard. I could no longer ignore the gnawing suspicion that Jake was still in the picture. "Who are you texting?" I asked, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. Her head snapped up and I saw genuine surprise in her eyes. "Just a friend," she replied too quickly. I knew better than to let that slide. "A friend or your boyfriend? Don't be ridiculous," she shot back, her voice sharp and defensive. "You're being paranoid." "Am I? Because it seems like you're working very hard to cover something up. Why don't you just tell me the truth?" She rolled her eyes, visibly irritated by my questions. "I can't believe you're still stuck on this. I told you it's just therapy. You're being dramatic." The claim felt like a slap. "Dramatic? You're the one who's been lying to me. I deserve better than this." My emotions were raw, but beneath the anger I felt a deep sadness creeping in. I had loved this woman so fiercely. How had we ended up in this mess? With every argument, a piece of my heart shattered, yet I could stop myself. I needed to confront the truth, no matter how much it hurt. That weekend, I decided to investigate further. I'd heard there were apps to track someone's phone, and while I felt a pang of guilt at the idea of invading her privacy, desperation overtook my morals. I needed to know, and if she was hiding something from me, anything I could find would be worth it. After some research, I found a discreet app that could track her location. I installed it while she was in the shower, my heart racing as I did something I never thought I'd do. Once it was activated, I felt both a sense of power and a heavy weight of guilt. What would I do if it confirmed my worst fears? Later that day, I found myself staring at my phone, the app open, and Sarah driving across town. I felt my heart drop as I realized she was on her way to the same physical therapy center. It was a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe I was right. I was devastated, but I also felt a surge of determination. I had to confront her again, and this time I would do it armed with proof. When she returned, I watched as she entered the house with that same carefree demeanor. She had no idea what I had uncovered. I felt a mix of anger and pity for the woman who had betrayed me so thoroughly. I had spent so much time hoping she'd change, that she'd take responsibility for her actions, but it was clear that was never going to happen. "Where have you been?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up, startled. "I ran some errands, Chris." "Why?" "Oh, just the usual, making sure you weren't off with Jake again," I replied, my tone dripping with sarcasm. Her expression darkened and she stepped toward me, dismissing my implication with a wave. "You're ridiculous. I wasn't with him. I was out getting groceries." I held up my phone, showing her the app. "You lie so easily, don't you? You can try to sell that trash to me, but it's not going to work. I know where you were." Her face paled, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. "You're tracking me? That's just insane." "Isn't it insane that you've betrayed me? You're the one who's lied to my face." Her defenses crumbled and she took a step back, as if my words had physically pushed her away. "You don't understand. I needed someone to talk to. You were so consumed with your recovery that I felt alone." "Alone? You chose to go out and fuck my physical therapist instead of talking to me." "I didn't." "Stop, just stop. You can't keep lying." "I didn't mean for it to happen," she shouted, her voice breaking. "We were just working together and it turned into something more. I thought it was just a fling, but I didn't want to hurt you." The confession hung heavy in the air between us, and I could feel the world collapsing around me. I was no longer just angry, I was shattered. How could she say that? "You didn't want to hurt me. Do you have any idea what you've done?" And in that moment, I realized it wasn't just about betrayal. It was about choices and the love we had lost somewhere along the way. I felt like a stranger in my own life, and I needed to make a decision about how to move forward. The pain was unbearable, but I had to decide whether to fight for what we had or to let go of a love that had become tainted and toxic. The thought of leaving her was terrifying, but the idea of staying in a broken marriage felt equally daunting. I knew I had difficult choices ahead of me, and the road was only getting darker. The aftermath of my confrontation with Sarah was a whirlwind of emotions. After she admitted to her affair with Jake, everything felt surreal. I had thought I would feel a sense of relief once I had the truth, but instead, I was trapped in a storm of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. We spent the next few days in a tense silence, avoiding each other in the house we once filled with laughter and love. I tried to process what had happened, but it was like trying to grasp smoke with my bare hands. Each time I looked at her, I was reminded of the trust I had placed in her, a trust she had shattered without a second thought. It felt as if the ground beneath me had crumbled away, leaving me adrift. I no longer recognized the woman I had married. I saw a stranger who had wreaked havoc on my heart. Friends began to notice my mood swing. I had kept the details of our troubles to myself, but my closest buddy, Mark, could sense something was off. One night, he showed up unannounced with a six-pack of beer and a determination to get me to talk. "Dude, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, settling onto my living room couch. I hesitated, unsure of how much I wanted to reveal, but the dam of emotions I'd been holding back broke open and I found myself spilling everything. "Sarah cheated on me. She's been seeing my physical therapist while I've been recovering from my ski accident." Mark's jaw dropped and he sat back, clearly taken aback. "Are you serious? That's brutal, man. Have you talked to her?" I confronted her and she admitted it, but now, I don't know what to do. I'm so furious, but I still love her, I confessed, my voice filled with despair. "I never thought she'd betray me like this. I thought we had something real." "Bro, you deserve better than that. Don't let her manipulate you into feeling guilty for her actions," Mark advised, his tone serious. "You have to think about whether you want to keep putting yourself through this. It's not just her feelings that matter." His words resonated with me, yet my heart was still tangled in love for Sarah. Every time I thought about leaving, I felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness. I couldn't imagine life without her, even if that life was now fraught with deceit. As the days passed, I found myself oscillating between anger and longing. My heart ached for the good memories we shared, the moments that felt pure and joyful. I thought about the nights we'd spent talking until dawn, the trips we'd taken together, and the plans we had for the future. But those memories were now overshadowed by betrayal. I couldn't shake the feeling that all the laughter had been a facade, masking the cracks beneath the surface. It was another sleepless night when I finally made up my mind. I needed to confront this head-on, once and for all. I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I called Sarah into the living room, determined to lay everything bare. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but my heart racing. She looked apprehensive but nodded, taking a seat across from me. "What is it? I can't keep pretending everything is okay. Your affair has changed everything between us and I need to know where we stand." She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand to stop her. "No more excuses. Tell me what you want. Do you want this marriage, or do you want to be with Jake?" Her eyes darted away, and for a moment I thought she might actually be honest. But then she responded, "I don't know. Everything been a mess, and I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Not mean to, you made a choice. You didn't just slip and fall into bed with him out of nowhere." I shouted, the anger spilling over again. "You had to have known that this would destroy us." "I was lonely. I thought maybe this was just a phase. It didn't mean anything to me," she shouted back, desperation in her voice. "Then why does it feel like a dagger in my chest?" I shot back, unable to contain the hurt. "You say it didn't mean anything, but it did. It meant the world to me that you would choose someone else over your own husband." Her face crumpled, and for the first time since this all began, I saw genuine remorse. "I never wanted to hurt you, Chris. I really didn't mean for it to happen like this." "Then what do you want from me, Sarah? Do you want me to forgive you? To forget all of this like it never happened?" I was incredulous. "I want to try and fix this. I love you," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "Love? How can I believe that now? You shattered everything we had. I can't just wave a magic wand and pretend it's okay." In that moment, I realized I had to take control of my life instead of letting her dictate the terms of our relationship. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain calm. "I can't be in a marriage built on lies, Sarah. I need time to process this. I need to decide if there's anything left worth saving." Her face fell and I could see the realization dawning on her. This was no longer just a fight, this was the beginning of a reckoning. I needed to think about my own future, my own happiness. I didn't have the answers right now, but I knew I had to start figuring it out. I stood up, feeling the weight of the emotional burden pressing down on me. "I need space. I need to think about everything." As I walked away from her, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to emerge. The road ahead would be difficult, but I had to prioritize my own well-being. I had to take the first step towards healing, whether that meant saving our marriage or letting go of the love that had turned into a source of pain. The days that followed my confrontation with Sarah felt like a blur. I had told her I needed space, and I took that seriously. I moved into the guest room, spending my nights tossing and turning, haunted by memories that now felt tainted. I tried to focus on work during the day, but my mind was a battlefield, replaying every moment of our relationship and every word exchanged in our confrontations. As I distanced myself physically, I also began to emotionally isolate. Friends reached out, but I found it difficult to open up further. I was stuck in this limbo of wanting to share my pain and wanting to keep it bottled up. I started to spend my evenings binge-watching shows that required no thought, letting the stories of others occupy my mind instead of facing my reality. One evening, as I sat in the guest room scrolling through social media, I noticed a post from Jake. He had shared a picture of him at a bar with friends, a carefree smile plastered on his face. I felt a surge of anger wash over me. How could he be so casual about this? How could he enjoy life while my world was crumbling? Unable to contain myself, I texted Sarah. I saw Jake's post. He looks like he's having a great time. Must be nice to move on while you're still here lying to me. It was a petty move, but I was still in the throes of anger and hurt. I didn't expect her to respond right away, but a minute later I saw the three dots appearing. "Chris, please don't do this. You know I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she replied, her message filled with a sense of urgency. "Didn't mean for what happened to betray me, to ruin our marriage," I shot back. "I can't change what happened. All I can do is try to fix things. I love you and I want to rebuild our trust." Love. You've thrown that word around a lot lately. It's hard to believe when you're still tangled up with him. "I'm not with him anymore. I told you it was a mistake." I could feel the tension crackling in the air as I read her message. Part of me wanted to believe her, to cling to the hope that maybe she was telling the truth, but another part screamed that I was being foolish. I had seen the evidence. I had witnessed her betrayal. "Do you understand how hard this is for me?" I replied, the anger slowly giving way to sadness. "You made a choice, Sarah, and now I have to decide if I can ever trust you again." There was a long pause before she responded. "I know. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. Please give me that chance." In that moment, I had a choice to make. I could either continue to wallow in this pain and anger or take a proactive step toward healing. But what would that look like? Could I really forgive her, or was that a fool's errand? After a sleepless night, I decided it was time to talk to someone who could help me sort through my feelings. I reached out to a therapist I had seen in the past, hoping they could provide some guidance. When I arrived at the office, I felt a mix of apprehension and relief. Sitting in that familiar chair, a sense of safety enveloped me. I needed to unload everything, my frustrations, my fears, and the anger I felt toward Sarah. "I don't know if I can forgive her," I confessed. "I don't know if I want to. But I also don't want to throw away everything we built together." The therapist nodded, acknowledging my struggle. "It's understandable to feel conflicted. Betrayal is incredibly painful, and it's a process to work through those feelings. Healing doesn't happen overnight." "Then how do I know if I should even try?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What if I end up just getting hurt again?" "That's the risk you take in any relationship," she replied gently. "But you also have to consider what you want for yourself. Do you see a path forward? Is there a part of you that still loves her?" Hearing her words made my heart ache. I had loved Sarah so deeply, and despite everything, I still wanted to believe in the possibility of redemption. "I do love her," I admitted, "but I also feel betrayed. I don't know how to reconcile those two feelings." "Take your time," she advised. "Healing is not linear, and it will take effort from both of you if you choose to work on this marriage. Communication is key." Armed with this insight, I returned home with a clearer mind. Sarah was waiting for me, and the look on her face revealed her anxiety. As I sat down in front of her, I took a deep breath. "Sarah, I've made some decisions. I'm not ready to say I forgive you, but I'm willing to talk. I want to understand what happened, and I want to know if you're truly committed to making this work." Her eyes filled with hope, and she nodded slowly. "I am. I'll do whatever it takes, Chris. I promise." As we opened the lines of communication, I found myself navigating a delicate conversation filled with both vulnerability and honesty. I needed to hear her side of the story, and she needed to understand the depth of my pain. I asked her to explain why she had turned to Jake in the first place. I felt alone, she admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was frightened by what happened to you after the accident. I thought I was losing you, and instead of talking to you about it, I guess I just sought out someone who seemed to understand. It was difficult to hear, but I knew I had to listen. But you didn't just seek someone to talk to. You crossed a line, Sarah, you made. A choice that hurt me deeply. I know, and I regret it every day, she replied, her voice trembling. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. All I can do is try to make amends. I love you. I've always loved you. As she spoke, I felt the walls I'd built around my heart beginning to crack. Perhaps there was a path forward. Perhaps I wasn't ready to give up just yet. But it would take time, and it would take effort from both of us. I understood that the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, and the wounds would take time to heal. But as we talked that night, I felt the flicker of hope that maybe we could rebuild, brick by brick, if we were both willing to put in the work. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a while, I felt like we might find our way back to each other again. The weeks that followed my decision to talk to Sarah were a blur of emotions and hard work. We both knew that rebuilding trust wouldn't happen overnight, but I was determined to take things one step at a time. Therapy became a regular part of our routine, and we took it seriously, each session peeling back layers of hurt and misunderstanding. The more we talked, the more I realized how much we had both contributed to the rift between us. I had been so focused on my own recovery that I had neglected Sarah's feelings, leaving her feeling isolated and unheard. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I knew I had to own my part in this mess if we were ever going to move forward. Sarah was doing her part as well. She cut ties with Jake immediately and began attending individual therapy sessions to work through her own issues. It was a strange feeling, watching her take these steps. Part of me felt resentment. How was it so easy for her to break off that relationship while I was still grappling with everything? But another part of me felt pride as she committed to mending the wounds she had inflicted on our marriage. We started to re-engage in the things that had brought us together in the first place. Cooking dinner together, going for evening walks, and even revisiting some of our favorite activities. From before my accident, those moments felt fragile, like we were walking on a tightrope, but they also brought a glimmer of hope that maybe we could find our way back to each other. One evening, as we sat on the couch, I looked over at Sarah. She was staring at her hands, lost in thought. "What are you thinking about?" I asked gently. "I was just thinking about how much I hurt you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wish I could change everything, but I know I can't. All I can do is show you that I'm committed to making things right." "I know," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. "And I appreciate that. I'm still healing, and it's hard for me to let go of the anger sometimes, but I also want to try to forgive you." Her eyes lit up with a mixture of relief and gratitude, and for the first time in months I felt a moment of clarity. We were both on the same page, working toward the same goal. It wouldn't be easy, but we had each other, and that meant something. As the weeks turned into months, we found ourselves stepping into a new rhythm. There were still moments of tension, and I would occasionally catch myself feeling insecure or worried about her slipping back into old habits. But we had established a foundation of open communication, and every time those feelings bubbled up, we would talk about them instead of letting them fester. One night, during a quiet dinner at home, I looked across the table at Sarah, who was smiling and laughing as we shared stories. It struck me then how far we had come. I knew I could never erase the hurt, but I could see a future filled with possibility. "Hey," I said, breaking the comfortable silence between us. "I just want to say that I'm proud of you. I know it's been tough, but I see you making the effort, and I appreciate it." Her expression softened. "Thank you. It means a lot to me to hear you say that. I'm proud of you, too, for being willing to work through this with me." As we finished dinner, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. We still had a long way to go, but for the first time in a while I felt hopeful. I realized that love isn't always perfect. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes painful. But it can also be resilient. In the months that followed, we learned to navigate our relationship anew, taking things slow. We explored new hobbies together, went on weekend getaways, and even reconnected with friends we had drifted away from, doing our best to rebuild the social aspects of our lives. As summer approached, I felt a sense of renewal. We had come through the storm together, and while I couldn't say I had completely forgiven Sarah, I was learning to trust her again bit by bit. One evening, as we stood side by side watching the sunset, I took her hand in mine. "I love you, Sarah," I said, feeling the weight of my words. "I love you too, Chris," she replied, squeezing my hand. "Thank you for giving me a chance to make things right." And in that moment, I knew that while we had both made mistakes, we were also learning to grow from them. Life would never be the same, but perhaps, just perhaps, it could be something new and beautiful. As we watched the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace settle around us. We were still on a journey, but we were on it together, and that was a start. I had learned a lot during this painful chapter of my life, but perhaps the most important lesson was that sometimes love requires rebuilding, not just the trust that was lost, but also the faith that we could find our way back to each other again.